Letter to NY by Elizabeth Bishop. In your next letter, I wish you'd say where you're going, what you're doing, how are the plays, and after the plays, what other pleasures you're pursuing. Taking cabs in the middle of the night, driving as if to save your soul, where the road goes round and round the park, and the meter glares like a moral owl. And the trees look so queer and green, hanging alone in big black caves. And suddenly you're in a different place where everything seems to happen in waves. And most of the jokes you just can't catch, like dirty words rubbed off a slate. And the songs are loud but somehow dim, and it gets so terribly late. And coming out of the brownstone house, to the gray sidewalk, the watered street, one side of the buildings rises with the sun, like a glistening field of wheat. Wheat, not oats, dear. I'm afraid if it's wheat, it's none of your sowing. Nevertheless, I'd like to know what you are doing and where you are going. Long pig. And this is the first appearance of Lost in Translation, James Merrill's 1974 poem that is probably his most famous poem. It's about a little boy doing a jigsaw puzzle with his governess. And I made a discovery in the work of James Merrill. He hid a puzzle inside that poem, knowing it would be noticed and solved after his death, and it would in turn change the meaning of everything he wrote. And I've been working on it 14 years, but I have decided I'm not going to publish anything about what I found. It's become a very, very difficult struggle to write and guard my privacy, among other things. Some things are too important not to steal, but not valuable enough to pay for, and this is certainly one of those things. So I'm selling my first editions of Elizabeth Bishop. I have a complete collection of that. I'm also selling, let's see, we have the Aspirin Papers. This is a first Henry James from 1888, the one-volume first. I love it. They glared at me. They made me horribly ashamed. I never shall forget her strange little bent white tottering figure with its lifted head, her attitude, her expression. Neither shall I forget the tone in which, as I turned looking at her, she hissed out passionately, furiously, "Ah, you publishing scoundrel." And this is, in the first edition, it's Miss Tita, not Miss Tina. Then we have Embarrassments from, this is Henry James's collection from 1894 with the figure in the carpet in its first, and that's a fascinating thing to see in its original edition. What is that? It was something guessed in the primal plan, something like a complex figure in a Persian carpet. He highly approved of this image when I used it. And he used another himself. "It's the very thing," he said, "that my pearls are strung on." Indeed. We have a copy of Nevertheless, 1944, from Marianne Moore. And again, I used to be a power seller on eBay, but I can't access. Thank you, Google. Thank you, Gmail. I was shut out of my long-standing account, Murano eBay, that I had hundreds of positive reviews. So I have to start anew and see if I can get a decent price for some of these things. This is the first of Divine Comedies, the Book of Ephraim. And note, good Mormons, he always said Ephraim, not Ephraim. This one, yes, Leonard Cohen. This is not a particularly valuable edition in and of itself, but Leonard and I shared a friend, and having not at that point met him, and I did only meet him once, he wrote a lovely inscription to David Maynard from Leonard Cohen: as I disgrace my style, as I coarsen my nature, as I invent jokes, as I pull up my garters, ... Warm regards. Los Angeles, 2006. It has his special embossed security device here. And these are very rare. He didn't do these for, well, I don't know if him writing out a poem in anybody else's copy, let alone deliberately leaving out a line, but you'll have to look that up. As anybody who knows Bishop will recognize, this is the February 1918 National Geographic, mentioned in the waiting room. As for the puzzle, if you know James Merrill's Lost in Translation, you'll know that there is most of a dark-eyed woman dressed in mauve, looking at one side, and then a sultan with sword hilt. He is all but finished on this side. I'm not going to show you what this image is. You see these two fragments of cloud. They actually fit together. If you see how this, and this is a puzzle from 1932 or so. It's very wide. It has nearly 1,000 pieces. It is the actual image that James Merrill and his Mademoiselle, his governess, who was teaching him French and German, put together, and that does not manifest as a picture of his parents' broken marriage. It's something very, very different. But really all people need to know is the goose girl mentioned in the poem is a character from Königskinder, which is a Engelbert Humperdinck opera. It was produced at the old Metropolitan. That's the old house that was torn down. It's mentioned in the poem. And really, I think that's all anybody needs to know. I certainly learned a lot from it.